Narayanam namaskritam naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasatim vyasam tato jayodirat nishtaprayasho bhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyotamasoki bhaktir bhavati naistiki nigamal kapaduragaritam padam shukam rita javisamitam pibata bhagatam raja mariam mahora hora shikabhuvi vakaham Krishna sadam upagate damagiri karonashta dishamasha parana kodunoditaham Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutare Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tiramani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gurvani Pacharine Nirvishesa Sanivadi Praskita Desarani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sri Gaur Bhaktavindam Om Aganati Maranda Shangarangana Sarakya Chaksurun Militam Yanatashmai Sri Gurve Namam Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutare Sayam Rubhakaramayam Darati Swaparandikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Prakamanam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sa Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sadevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Sha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Thanks for joining us, Gene, on Motivational Monday, and those others who have not yet liked and comment. Natasha, good morning. Larry, good morning. Raleigh, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Motivational Monday. We have at our virtual background today, aerial shot of the temple compound. Not all of it. The ashram is not included, but the temple itself, the stage at the bottom of the hill, where we have the entertainment for Festival of India and the Festival of Colors, and a couple of pavilions that provide shade. The huge octagonal pavilion in the back, which started off as a performing arts center, gradually got utilized as a warehouse for powdered colors that we wholesale and ship out all over the North America. And to your left there's a llama barn. And we've had 3 new babies just in the last couple of weeks. In the last week, we've had 2 new babies. And they're all doing well, 2 males, 1 female. It occurred to us recently that we're coming up on our 20th anniversary. Temple opened June 23rd, 2001. So we thought it would be a nice idea to celebrate that 2 decades in service to the community, hosting tens of thousands, figure 60,000 a year for 20 years. What is that? That's 1.2 million visitors since the temple was opened. Most from Utah, but others from all over America and even from all over the world. School tours, festivals. It's been a wonderful 20 years, and we want to celebrate with the community that made it possible, as well as to invite anybody from out of state to come in. It will be a Sunday on June the 20th. Originally thought June the 27th, but then I asked Dinesh Patel, our #1 backer, inspirational supporter for building the temple, and he's traveling that weekend, but he said the 20th will work for him. So I said the 20th it is then. He'll be our guest speaker, and we'll have speakers from the Krishna community as well as from the Mormon community. We'll have dance programs, continuous kirtan, and arti in the temple room. Outside on the lake stage, there'll be dance and speakers, drama. There'll be free prasadam from 5 until 9 o'clock. That's June the 20th, Sunday, the 20th anniversary of the opening of the C.C. Radha Krishna Temple in Spanish Fork, Utah. Vaibhavi says, Haribo. Rupa Manjari says, Dandavat Pranams Prabhu. Anjali is wishing Vaibhavi and I happy anniversary. Thank you very much. This will be the only Facebook Live we'll do during the week. We're going down to Kaneb, Utah later on this morning. We'll stay there until Friday, so we won't be giving any classes on Tuesday and Wednesday, but we urge you to keep your Tuesday transcendental and your Wednesday full of wisdom and take advantage of all the other wonderful speakers that are online in Zoom. Good morning, Rob.
Morning.
Got a faint good morning from Rob. He's probably out in the fields already. We're doing a lot of planting here in our gardens as well tons and tons of seedlings are coming out of the greenhouse. They've been hardened by sitting out for a few days, and now they're ready to put into the ground. So we're going to do that. The temple opening is one piece of news. The birth of all these lamas is another piece of news. And then the last one that I wanted to share with you is that we're going to a little town called Kanab, Utah in southern Utah. It's about a 4-hour drive south of here. It's the home of the largest animal sanctuary in America, the Best Friends Pet Sanctuary, and they have a big parrot section. So we're parrot people. We have 2 macaws and 1 African gray, who are huge tourist attractions. And it's also possible to volunteer half a day or so working with the parrots, cleaning their cages and so on and so forth. So we hope to do that while we're down there. And of course, southern Utah is just gorgeous. A lot of hiking trails, a lot of beautiful scenery, 30 miles from Zion's, should we decide to go to Zion's. So from Monday through Friday, Vaya and I will be celebrating. We've actually served together 52 years, but 50 of that years has been as hubby and a wife. So we'll be taking off shortly after this broadcast and after we tie up some loose ends and arrange for everything to go on during the week that we're absent. Thanks to Raleigh and Indrani. Thanks to Advaita Charya and Nandarani for holding the fort down in what will be our forthcoming 5-day absence. I thought since we're just doing one day this week, rather than launch into another verse, we'll smash the previous record. Previous record was spending 9 days on a single verse. We broke that record last Wednesday by spending a 10th session on the 11th verse, 5th chapter, first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we thought that since there's only one morning class this week, we'll just continue to extend our commentary on this verse to an 11th, an unprecedented all-time high, 11 different sessions. You all know it by now. Tatbag visargo janataga viplavo yajman pratishoka bivdaviti api namami antasya yashoni kinani at shrinbanti gyandu ganaji shadavaha. On the other hand, that literature, which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Another word for purified men who are thoroughly honest is Mahatmas, or Hamsas. Hamsas, Mahatmas, have the ability of getting at the essence. When Sutta Goswami appeared into the assembly of the sages at Naimishrata, they didn't beat about the bush. There were no particular formalities, introductions. They just immediately said, Muni Ashadu Prishtaham Bhavadbhir Lokam Yat Krita Krishna Yat Mashupashide. Do you have anything to tell us about Krishna? So they didn't waste even a single moment in pleasantries, in petty welcomes. Of course, it's nice to welcome a guest, offer him a sitting place. It's called Shragatam, glass of water. That's the minimum that any poor man can offer a visitor in India. And along with a sitting place and a glass of water, you have to offer nice words. And the words have to be appropriate to the qualities and abilities of your guests. You can't grossly exaggerate or flatter them. Prabhupada said you can't call a blind boy lotus-eyed, for instance. But other than that, Mahatmas, Hamsas don't waste time. Buddhini buddhini kamani sotabhya atasadya samudrasana bruhi badara yatmashu prashidati. Says, tell us the essence. There's so many scriptures. It'll take lifetimes to read them. And after you've read them, you realize that they're injunctions, rules, which are contradictory from one tradition to the other, from one scripture to another. And then you have to take more and more lifetimes to try and reconcile. I've heard that Judaism is largely scholarship. Largely Maimonides and all the others are basically scholars who comb through the scriptures, find all the apparent contradictions, and then there's just endless commentary. The commentary and the commentary and the commentary and the commentary, and all that trying to resolve what are apparently contradictions in the scriptures. Sutta Goswami is asked, please just cut through all this. Om Agena Sambhakam. Each time, take your sword of knowledge, take your sword of devotion, take what you've learned by overhearing Sukadeva Goswami explain the Bhagavatam to King Pariksit, and just cut all these knots of attachment and liberate us from this wheel of birth, death, disease, and old age. So such souls are not interested in the external energy of the Lord. They're not interested in the temporary, mundane topics of this material world. They're like swans. Swan can go into the stem of a lotus flower and pull out the nectar, the marrow, you might say. Or he can put his beak into a mixture of water and milk and extract the milk, leaving behind the water. The swan-like men are only interested in that which enlivens and elevates the soul. The body, no matter what you do for the body, no matter how much attention or money, cosmetology, cosmetic surgery, you lavish on it, it will all be finished in the course of time. In 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's explained that this body is ashes. It will be ashes. If you're a Hindu and you get burned at the time of death, your body will turn to be ashes. If you're a Christian, you get buried, your body will turn to earth. And some sects believe that the body should serve a purpose. After all, there are scavengers, vultures, and jackals. They also need to eat, and so they throw the body out into a jungle path so that the scavengers can support themselves as well. So this body, which is destined to be either earth or ashes or stool, once it's passed out by the scavengers, one should not take any extraordinary amount of energy for maintaining this body. God's already made arrangement for your shelter, for your food. We needn't extraneously and elaborately try to expand upon that theme. After all, the animals get their place to sleep. They get a shelter when there's a rain and a storm. They have their meals a day, whatever it is that they need. And so why should we, as highly evolved human beings with the potential to love God and serve God, stress ourselves out unduly about our maintenance? In fact, most people say they have to work in order to put food on the table. That's hardly the truth. That is far from the truth. Could not be more opposite from the truth. They're not working hard to put food on the table. To put food on the table would not require a lot of work. Even a poor man in India with 1/3 of an acre of land, he only has to work 3 months a year in order to provide food for his family for the rest of the year. And then he's got 9 leisure months. People are not working hard to put food on the table. They're working hard for all the baubles and bangles and trinkets that a technological society dangles in front of their noses. The Mahatmas see all that as garbage in the street. Mamapeti Punarjanma, Krishna says in the 15th verse, the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Dukkali Mashashvatam, Napnumanti Mahatmanam Samsiddhim Paramam Gadim. Napnumanti Mahatmanam. The Mahatmas just don't go there. They just don't go towards the acquisition of and proprietorship of temporary materialistic baubles and bangles. They are aimed, they have set their sights, Samsiddhim Paramam Gatim, on the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality Godhead. Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe, the highest and most gifted and talented of all the inhabitants of this material creation, prays that if he could become a blade of grass at the lotus feet of Krishna and do some service by providing a soft cushion for Krishna's lotus feet in the spiritual world, he would switch that in a heartbeat. He would give up his exalted position of Lord Brahma, who resides on the highest planet of this material universe, who creates this material universe, who knows everything about this material universe. He would give up his sovereignty over this material universe in order to become a blade of grass at the lotus feet of Krishna. So he's seeking after, even though he's involved, he's obliged in his current body to deal with material nature during the duration of this current cosmic manifestation. He daydreams. He hankers. He sits at his desk and thinks of when his duties, his material duties, will be discharged, and he can leave this current body and go back to home, back to Godhead, even as a blade of grass in the service of the Lord. This is called being sheltered inside of the internal spiritual energy of the Lord. On the other hand, those are captivated by the illusory advancement of material civilization. We've been enjoying gasoline-propelled engines for a century or so. It's all very heady. Never before in the history of the world have people had combustion engines. We define the power of those engines by how much horsepower. It's 100 horsepower, 200 horsepower, 500 horsepower. If you go back to before the invention of the engine, the most you could do, you just have 1 horse, or if you have a stagecoach, you have 4 horsepower, 6 horsepower. 6 horsepower was a lot. You had to be very careful that didn't get out of control. But now any little 95-year-old kid or girl, teenager, you can get in the car and with the remote fire up the engine of a car, which is 100, 200, 300, 400 horsepower. So those who are captivated by horsepower are certainly madmen, Prabhupada says, because this is phantasmagoria. We've enjoyed 100 years of horsepower. Look at all the problems it's caused. I think we really need to consider, is it worth it? Has it been worth it? It's created so many negative effects in the environment where we live. It's like putting toxins in your house. It's like allowing toxins, not doing anything about toxins, acting in such a way that the toxin increase. You're living there. You can't afford to have toxins. You can't afford to have impure food and impure water in the place where you live. Now, this is our planet for this lifetime. How is it that we can afford to compromise it in the name of some temporary conveniences? Now, because carbon emissions have created so many problems, and that's being recognized by the scientific community, we want to try and reduce carbon emissions, solve the problems that we created when we invented the combustion engine. And so we're going to electric engines, EVs. The problem with that is the lithium that's required for electric engines is attained only by very vigorous and specific and extensive mining. The breast of the earth is cut, mutilated in order to get the components for these electric engines, and massive amounts of groundwater and aquifers are polluted also in that mining effort. So we want our cake and eat it too. We want the kingdom of God. We want to enjoy on the level of God's, but we don't want to serve God. And the result is it just gets more and more and more complex. We get more and more caught up in the adjustments, trying to create a utopian situation in this temporary material world. Prabhupada said that is a definition of madness. There's no peace, there's no tranquility, there's no purity, there's no knowledge. There are no good qualities in the human being. It's a mad rush for names only. Second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Ata Kabir Namashu Yavara Tat Sirapa Pratya Vivshai Siddheno Tatyatinu Parishamam Tata Samiksamanam. Prabhupada said the buildings, furnitures, cars, bungalows, mills, factories, industries, peaceful or even the highest perfection of material science, namely atomic energy and electronics, are all simply bewildering names of material elements with their concomitant reactions of the 3 modes. Since the devotees, the Mahatmas, or the swan-like men, know them perfectly well, they're not interested in creating unwanted things for a situation which is not at all reality, but simply names of no more significance than the babble of sea waves. When we took our history classes in grade school and high school, we read about great kings and leaders, soldiers who fought with one another to perpetuate their names in history, to carve out, to annex territory, not being satisfied with the amount of land that God allotted to them as their quota. And yet they're all forgotten in due course of time. And they are pushed aside, they make way for another name arising out of the babble of the foam of the sea waves, which again is replaced by another name and 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 another name. It is no more significant than the waves lapping on the shore at the beach. However, a devotee realizes how much history and historical persons are useless products of flickering time. In The Tempest, I believe it is, Act 4, Scene 1, William Shakespeare echoes the vanity, the uselessness of all our material so-called history, of all our conflict and posturing. He says, our revels now are ended. These are actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits and are melted into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherits shall dissolve. And like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff, and he's talking about our bodies, not our souls. Our bodies are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little material life, 60 or 70 years, is rounded with a sleep. So those whose eyes are awake, those who are sober, not intoxicated by the lures of material nature, they know how to prioritize their time. They know where to put their time and energy to get the best result. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th verse, 7th chapter, 1st canto, Anarto Pashavam Shakshad, Bhakti Yoga Manukshada, Loka Sajano Vidram, Chakrat Satvita Samitam. Enlightened souls, they're not interested in shadow world. They're not interested in the insubstantial. They're not interested in the categories, but they're interested in the subject. And coming to Krishna consciousness, awakening that highest vision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a person, one sees as if spread out before him at lower elevations all the different levels of material existence. And one sees not only how it is that living beings entangle and enmesh themselves in complicated, confusing snares of material nature, but they also see in their perfect vision the means of extricating themselves. People are entangled, they're involved, they're compromised after useless, temporary things of this material nature. Anarto Pashamamshak. Anarta means anything which is not conducive to your ultimate liberation. Unwanted things, things which do not contribute to your purification, to your elevation. The non-devotees are sold out. They spend all of their time chasing after things which are temporary, fawning after this temporary, perishable, material body. But Bhakti Yoga, it tries for those things which are not seen. The materialists sold out for those things which they see. But the things which they see are changing before their very eyes. This world, in the material sense, is endlessly mutable. The real thing of value is in what you don't see, because it is the spiritual world which underlies this changing material world, which is as it is eternally, which is in fact true substance. This material world, which we've mistaken for substance, is in fact shadow. And the spiritual world, which lies beyond this material world, which is invisible to our material eyes, is in fact substance. So the devotees of the Lord, they see substance and they see shadow. They see the difference between them both. They see the advantages of immersing yourself in the internal spiritual energy of the Lord, and they see the disadvantages of doing otherwise. And so what they do, for instance, the great devotee Vyasadeva, he compiled the Vedic literatures, part of which was the fifth Veda, the Mahabharata, to link people, to give people a positive alternative, a higher taste. Visha vinivartate narashadra, rashahamapisha, param drishva nivartate. People can't be expected to give up their taste for the lower, grosser thing until they're offered a taste of the higher thing. So the miseries of a living being, which arise from their material entanglement, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service, by linking upwards to the lotus feet of the Lord, by the stretching of the spiritual self in the upward direction of the supreme shelter of the personality of Godhead, gradually material miseries abate. Example is given. You may be awfully hungry, suffering because of your hunger. Oh, I'm dying here. I'm starving to death. But as soon as you put some nice prasadam in your mouth, the starvation, the misery, the discomfort lessens. You put another morsel and you chew it in your mouth, lessens proportionally. The more you satisfy yourself, the more you fill yourself with nutritional, tasty food offered to the Lord, the more your discomfort, the more your misery goes at a far distance away. Similarly, people like to read stories, they like to read adventures, they like to read about conspiracies, queens and princesses and kings and sages. And all of that is there in the Mahabharata by Vyasadeva and in the Ramayana by Valmiki. So people can transfer their desires for exciting narratives, for sensational bestsellers, dovetail that in the service of the Lord by acquainting themselves with the great epics, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. And as one gets attached to Yudhisthira, to Arjuna, to Draupadi, to all the great stellar characters of the Mahabharata and Ramayana, gradually one's taste for the discarded, garbage-like material fiction and mysteries of this material world comes to nil. It gradually abates. The more the light of Godhead waxes within one's heart and one's mind, the less can the darkness of matter coexist. Wherever light waxes, darkness wanes. It's a fact. You cannot have light waxing and darkness waxing at the same time. If darkness waxes, if ignorance predominates, light wanes. If light predominates, ignorance wanes. In the 19th verse of the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, Yo mamaya mashamudau janati parusha sarvavid bhajatemam sarva bhavani bharatam. He says to Arjuna, whoever knows me, this is Krishna standing before Arjuna, not some impersonal, imaginative version of Krishna, but whoever knows me, Yo mam evam ashamudho, as a personality of Godhead, without doubting, sasarvid bhajatemam, sasarva bhajate sarva bhavana, is considered the knowing of everything. Krishna says, if you know me, the cause of all causes, everything becomes known and nothing is unknown. Prabhupada once said, if you know the digits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then basically all mathematics proceeds from that. If you're aware of those basic digits, you can come to the point of being conversant with all of mathematics. So similarly, if you know the cause of all causes, then basically everything becomes known and nothing is unknown. Someone says, well, true, if you're a devotee and you're supposed to know everything, how many fingers am I holding behind my back? That's not the point. The point is that whatever we need to know in the service of the Lord is the reservoir of all knowledge. He's the source of all empowerment, of all strength. He'll give us what we need in the fulfillment of as we become sincere and excited, enthusiastic about fulfilling the mission of the Lord, He also equips us with everything that we need in order to fulfill our dreams and accomplish that mission. So who knows Krishna, Krishna declares, is the knower of everything. The consequences of which is that one engages oneself in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When you know the man, you no longer have to make any studies of his shadow. What, after all, can you learn about reality from studying its shadow? What can you learn about a man by studying his shadow? You can't know anything about his personality, his qualities, his likes, his dislikes, by studying his shadow. So similarly, Srila Vyasadeva, he wanted to give people a grasp of who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. We all say God. God lives in the spiritual world. God's the creator. God's the destroyer. Vyasadeva wanted to introduce us to that person who is God, Krishna. He didn't want us to speculate. He didn't want us to be on the margins of God consciousness. He wanted to step us right into the middle of a relationship of the Lord. Being fully enlightened, Vyasadeva could see God in his personal form. He could see God in his localized form as the Paramatma, dwelling within the hearts of the yogis. He could see God expanded into his effulgent spiritual energy. He could see God's marginal material energy, the inferior energy, and he could also see God's parts and parcels, the jivas, fallen from the spiritual energy into the material world and becoming thereby contaminated. Example is given, water is pure. We're also like drops of water. We're originally pure. We're emanations from the all pure Supreme Personality of Godhead. But when we decide to be separate from the Lord, we fall like a drop of rain falls from the sky. Now that pure, pristine drop of rain, as soon as it hits the earth, then it becomes mud. It's still pure, but now it's mixed with mud. So Vyasadeva, he saw the spiritual world, he saw the Supreme Lord, he saw all the liberated souls in the spiritual world. He saw how that same individual, all-powerful living entity has expanded himself as a super soul in the hearts of all living beings. He also saw that in his impersonal effulgence, the Brahma Jyoti, he enters into, pervades and supports the whole material world, just like air enters into, pervades and supports the cloud. And he saw the living beings suffering in this material world. And feeling compassion upon them, he laid out the remedial measures for the conditioned souls to get back home, back to Godhead. And those measures are devotional service. We're working hard, and as a result of working apart from the Lord for material temporary gains and for bodily acquisition, we can become entangled. We create karmic actions, which bring with them reactions. Now, the remedial measure, as described by great souls like Vyasadeva and Narada Muni, is don't stop working. Don't stop working. Continue working. Continue raising a family, if that's your inclination. Continue in your career. But dovetail it. Now make it God-centered instead of self-centered. It's not the activity which causes your misery and suffering, but it's the selfishness of the activity. It's the activity being self-centered or based on this body. You continue to do the activity, but in a different consciousness. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 25th chapter, Kapil tells his mother, Devahuti, Pushagama Janam Pashum Atmanokai Sai Varashiru Moksha Dwaram Upavitam. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material brings about the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. Narada Muni further explains, we can get indigestion from drinking too much milk products. Yet the cure for that indigestion is milk, albeit in another form, yogurt. Whereas milk can cause indigestion. When you have indigestion, but you take milk in the form of yogurt, it'll cure the indigestion. So working in terms of material entanglement is the greatest cause of suffering. But that same work, when done for the satisfaction of the Lord, is a cause of liberation. Srimad Bhagavatam describes the absolute truth as being superior to both the material and the spiritual energies, as the source and the substance of all the different categories. And it is not only the absolute truth, Sri Krishna is not only the substance, but he's also the categories. The Lord is described as one without a second. Think about what that means. There is no second. There is no one who can in any way, shape, or form compete with the Lord. He is one without a second. That means he is everything. Everything that exists in the spiritual and the material world, in the original planet of the Lord called Goloka Vrindavan, as well as all the expansions of his energy, it is only Krishna, just divided into substance and the category. Now, if you know Krishna, Vedanti tat tat vidas tatvam yazgyamen, Brahmiti Paramatmi Bhagavanti Sabdite. The Absolute Truth has three spiritual phases. Bhagavan, the face-to-face personality of Godhead, Paramatma, the expansion of the Lord in the hearts of the yogis, and Brahman, the impersonal material energy. So if you know Bhagavan, then you automatically know Paramatma, you automatically know Brahman. If you know Brahman, you don't know Paramatma, you don't know Bhagavan. If you know Paramatma, you know Brahman, but you don't know Bhagavan. But if you know Bhagavan, you know everything. It's like if you know the sun god Vivashwan, you know the sun, you know the sunshine. If you know the sunshine, you don't know the sun globe, you don't know the sun god. If you know the sun globe, you know the sunshine, but you don't know the sun god. But if you know the sun god, you know the sun globe, you know the sunshine, you know the clouds, you know the shadows, you know everything. Because everything comes from the sun, at least from a material point of view. If you don't know the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then whatever knowledge you have with respect to the categories is not really knowledge at all. It's nescience. Einstein said, we wouldn't call it research if we really knew what we were doing. So Krishna comes so that we can see the highest truth, that the highest truth manifests himself before us in spite of our disqualification. He shows his causeless mercy upon us by descending in myriad forms and incarnation, and in his original transcendental form, as recently as 5,000 years ago, and in his devotional form, even more recently, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in order to exhibit his transcendental activities so that people may have the chance to glorify him in every respect. And Prabhupada says to glorify God is actual research work. It's not that we need to understand everything about God's creation. It's not that we're capable of understanding everything about God's creation. But when we honor him and we glorify him, he reveals to us each and everything that we need to fulfill our destinies and make our life successful. And any study or research or poetry, art, drama, music, literature, which is not in reference to the Lord as the centerpiece, is compared to decoration of a dead body. The elements may be there in the dead body. Arms may be there. Torso may be there. Head, legs, kneecaps, ankles, feet, everything may be there. And it may be dressed very nicely. Let's say the corpse was an ex-naval admiral or a general, brigadier general in the army. He may be wearing his uniform. It was just come from the dry cleaner. It's pressed. He's got his medals of valor and his service medals pinned on his breast. The embalmer has done a great job filling his cadaver with chemicals that give him a little simulacrum of life, a little glow in his cheeks. And yet, in spite of all of this decoration and embellishment and cosmetic tweaking, we've really just got a rotting corpse there. We've got nothing of any value whatsoever. In the Hari Bhakti Sudhadaya, it says, Bhagavat Bhakti Hinasha Jahishatam Japash Pranashava Mandalam Lokaranjana, without reference to the substantive source of everything, the personality of Godhead. Whatever we have is simply the decoration of a dead body. Now that Lord himself is everywhere present. Eka Desha Stitoshnagir Jyotsner Vishnurini Parasya Brahmana Shaktis Titedum Akalajaga. It is said in Vishnu Puranam, whatever we see in this world is but an expansion of the various energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is compared to a fire that spreads illumination at a long distance, although it is situated in one place. We all had this experience. Fire might be 20 or 30 feet away, but we rub our hands. We say, oh, that fire feels good. Now, we all know that if the fire were right here, if our hands were in the fire, it would not feel good. Just the opposite. We would be screaming in pain and agony, and we'd be on our way to the burn trauma center. So the fire does not feel good. But because the heat and light from the fire are, in one sense, considered non-different, that the energies are non-different from the energetic source, we rub our hands and we say the heat of the fire feels good. We read our book by the light of the fire. We take advantage of the fire, but remotely, from a distance. We would not want to be too close to what to speak of in the fire. So Krishna is like that fire who has his own abode far beyond this material world. It's called Goloka Vrindavan. At the same time, just like heat and light are generated at a long distance from the fire, and they give the benefits of light and heat. Similarly, Krishna is expanding himself in terms of matter and in terms of spirit. So either you take Krishna and his expansions, the substance and the categories, there's nothing other than that. God is one without a second. This is another example which is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 40th verse, 20th chapter, 3rd canto. Yatoma God Vishputa God, Dumai Bapi Shishambhava, Apiat Maivivina, Yatagni Pritago Makha. The explanation is given here. Fire has different features. What are the features of fire? There's flame, there's sparks, and there's smoke, isn't it? So each one could be described in a different way. You could describe the flame using certain adjectives. You could describe the sparks using certain other adjectives. And you could describe the smoke using certain other adjectives. So according to the three differing descriptions of the different aspects of the fire, you could see or explain or illustrate that there is variety. There are different aspects of the fire. And yet at the same time, although they could be described differently, on one level the flame, the sparks, and the smoke can be differentiated from the fire itself. In another sense, they're all fire. They're different, but they're also one in quality. Similarly, you might say that the energies of the Lord are different from him. There's the material energy, which we can describe in one way. There's the spiritual energy, which we can describe in another way. And yet at the same time, there's no difference between the material energy and the spiritual energy. When we open our refrigerator door, or especially, let's say, the freezer door, there's a waft of cold air. There's a bag of ice in there. There's our veggie burgers. There's our frozen fruit and mangoes for making smoothies. And then on the other hand, you can turn on your grills, your electric burners on the stove, and you better be careful not to touch them because you'll get an agonizing burn on your finger. Now, we feel the cold from the refrigerator. We feel the hot from the electric burners, and they're different. You can very differently describe the effects of cold and the effects of heat. And you might think they have nothing to do with each other, but looking a little closer, you realize they're both electricity, and electricity is one. It's the same electricity that generates the cold, same electricity that generates the heat. So both the cold and the heat are one in quality. They manifest differently, but they're one in quality. So similarly, everything is the Lord, the substance, or his categories. And if you learn the substance, everything about the categories is to be known. If you truly want to be a learned man, you want to tap the root cause of everything, you want to excavate the root of all knowledge, just study the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he's described by great sages like Narada Muni and Vyasadeva, and how that knowledge has been passed down through the ages in disciplic succession. Prabhupada says the association of saints is not to be confused with the association of ordinary men. Saints are as different from other men as men are different from the animals. Let me rephrase that slightly. Saints are more different. They're more distinguished from other men then men are distinguished from the animals. And why? Because saints are always engaged in glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because by broadcasting the holy name, fame, and form of the Supreme Lord, the polluted atmosphere of the world will change. And as a result of propagating the transcendental literatures like Mahabharata, Ramayana, Srimad Bhagavatam, crazy people will become sane. Therefore, Prabhupada says, there is a great need for disseminating the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahabharata, Ramayana, the words of Narada Muni, Sukadeva Goswami, Sutta Goswami, all over the world. Originally, because this was spoken in India, it was the responsibility of every Indian to take his spiritual, divine heritage of Sanatana Dharma and broadcast that throughout the whole world in order to do the supermost good and bring about the desired peace in the world. However, it should be noted that India has failed in her duty by neglecting this responsible work. She sat on her treasure house of spiritual culture. Instead, she aped the Americans, being mad after technology like engineering in the 60s, 70s, 80s, IT technology in the 90s. And because India has failed to rise to the task, Bharata Bhumite Halyamanusya Janma Sharta Para Para Upakara, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if you have Bharata Bhumite, if you have taken birth in the land of India, then you must make your life successful by understanding the science of Krishna consciousness, and then make others' lives successful by spreading. Now, another interpretation of Bharata Bhumite is the whole globe, not just what's currently known as India, but other interpretation is that if you've taken your birth on any part of the surface of the earth, if you've taken human birth in any country or any nation, anywhere in Bharatvarsha, the earth planet, then it is incumbent upon each and every one to make their lives successful. And who wouldn't want to make their lives successful? That's what we're here for. That's our most significant driving force. I want to be successful. I want to improve up to the highest level. I want to be everything that God created me to be. So don't turn your back on that. Don't be cavalier or indifferent to it. Embrace it. Everyone who's taken birth on this earthly planet, make your life successful, and then spread the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. If the leading men of the world will do this, Prabhupada says, there will be a worldwide, universal change of heart. People will cure themselves of their craziness, and naturally the people of the world will become, instead of tools in the hands of modern politicians and leaders of the people, he said there will be a radical change in the atmosphere of the world. I'll just finish here just by conveying to you some more thoughts that Prabhupada said along these lines. Prabhupada said, if every Indian took up the consciousness of Krishna and spread it, it would be an instant, immediate, worldwide revolution. They have not done it, but anyway, one Indian is doing it. That lone Indian, when all the Indians were coming to America in the 70s and 80s to learn engineering, one Indian and one Indian only came to America to spread the culture of Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada says, we know that our honest attempt to present this great literature conveying transcendental messages for reviving God consciousness of people in general and re-spiritualizing the world atmosphere is fraught with many difficulties. Our presenting the matter in adequate language, especially in a foreign language, will certainly fail, and there will be so many literary discrepancies despite our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. But we are sure that with all our faults in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration, and leaders of society will still accept this due to it being an honest attempt to glorify the Almighty God. And I'll finish with this wonderful example. When there's fire in the house, the inmates go out to get help from the neighbors who may be foreigners, and yet without knowing the language, the victims of the fire express themselves
and the neighbors understand the need, even though not expressed in the same language. The same spirit of cooperation is needed to broadcast this transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world, throughout the polluted atmosphere. After all, it is the technical science of spiritual values, and we are concerned with the techniques, not the language. If the techniques of this great literature are understood by the people of the world, there will be success. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you. We've come to the end. We ended with a bang. Our 11 series talks on this one verse. Any concluding comments out there, Rob? Maybe he's gardening now. Let's see who else we have. Britta, thank you for joining us again. Natasha. Anjali's wishing us a happy Motivational Monday, as well as a 50th wedding anniversary, 52 years of serving Prabhupada, 50 years of it as husband and wife. Rakesh, thank you, Prabhu. Ram Kishore Das, it was nice to be on the summit call with you over the weekend. Anjali again, a heart. Subhadra, Hare Krishna Subhadra. Anjali says, enjoy Kanab. If you missed it earlier, we're going down to Kanab for a few days to hike in the canyons, to visit Zions, and to do some volunteer work, hopefully in the parrot section of the Best Friends annual sanctuary down there in Kanab. Bhakti Gary, thank you very much for joining us. I hope I'm not missing anyone. Jean, thank you so much for joining. This has been Motivational Monday. We're going to give a miss for Transcendental Tuesday and Wisdom Wednesday. Well, actually, hopefully none of us will give it a miss. Each one of us in our own way will pursue Transcendence on Tuesday and Wisdom on Wednesday, but we won't be doing it physically together through a Zoom call. We wish you the best. We'll be back with you next Monday, or if you'd like to join us earlier, we'll be on Saturday night with our Chance for Change talks again Sunday night, and we have a Zoom Sangha every Sunday at 11 o'clock. So lots of opportunities to interact, to get the benefit of each other's realizations and insights. We do encourage your comments. I'm going to be packing, get ready to go. So again, I won't be able to answer your comments right away. But by the time we get to Kanab and get settled, it'll be just the right time for me to review your wonderful comments and your questions and give some responses to that. So that may not be until this afternoon, but I'll look forward to that. I'll look forward to relishing that. Thank you as always for your support, for taking the time to be with me when there are so many options available. Even in terms of iskcon, Hare Krishna, there are many, many awesome speakers out there, all of whom are just dripping with knowledge. It's hard to decide with whom you're going to spend your time. And so I can only declare to you that I'm humbled, I'm honored, and privileged by the 15 or 20 people that come on board each and every time we talk. Those are the 15 and 20 that we know about, that like, that comment. And I'm always meeting people say, I listen to every one of your talks, and I never saw their name as a commenter. I never saw them as having done a like. Maybe they saw it on YouTube or whatever. But there are many, many people out there of which we're not aware of. So whoever you are, whether you have a name, whether I'm aware of you or whether I'm not aware of you, may the mercy of Krishna be upon you. May he bless you in your devotional service, and may he continually reveal more and more and more of his divine, supreme, omnipotent, beneficent, heavenly self to you as you progress in devotional service. Thanks once again. Om Tat Sat. If you'll join me a couple times in chanting the Maha Mantra to finish out our session today. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.